Hi everyone, welcome to, you guessed it, Drama Free Friday. How's everybody? Hope you're having a great day. I am. Hi Sue, Lynn, hey Lynn, hi Deborah, and Ella, hey you guys. Nice to have you join me bright and early. I was actually, okay, here's the secret. I was on time today. Here's another secret. We didn't have any issues. Yay! Can you say hallelujah? Hi Ella, happy Friday to you too. Yes. So, it's a good day when you can start out with no problems. No problemos. Oops. Yeah. Okay. I think everything's right. Hi, Kathy. So, you guys have picture, you have sound, we're good to go, correct? Give me the thumbs up if we're good. Hi, Carrie Ann. Kay's Crafts. Okay. Thanks for telling me that, Carrie Ann, or I wouldn't have known. I see someone's having some fun inside my computer. All of a sudden, my mouse started moving. Oh, funny. Okay. So, pardon me while I chew gum today. I don't normally do that, but I'm doing it today simply because I'm at the very last little trickling tail end of getting over this cold thing, and my throat hopefully will cooperate with us. I have hot tea. I have all my ducks in a row, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Deborah says, don't let the gremlins hear you. That's right. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm sure there'll be some other people wandering in, but we're going to go on and get crack-a-lackin' because we're just going to kind of play with some art journaling things today. Hi, Rain. It's good to see you, my friend. Everybody, I hope you're having a good day. It's beautiful here. It's another absolutely stunning day in the Midwest. The sun is shining brightly, which means the sponsors are all curled up in the window, which means they're quiet because they're sun drunk. And that's always good because if they're sun drunk, they're quiet and we don't get to listen to their pretty little voices. Because what they do is they park themselves behind door number 1. They literally park themselves behind the door. And I am sure that they put their noses right up to the crack of the door and go, because it sounds like it sounds like they've got their own personal microphone. So it's crazy. But anyway, so it's a little chilly today. It's supposed to be a beautiful weekend here, which will be lovely. The weather right now in where I live is just up and down and up and down. One day it's 20, the next day it's 40, a day after that it's 50, or, we even had it in the 60s earlier this week, which is crazy for February. Crazy. Nice, but crazy. Okay, so let's get started with this show. What do you say? No, yeah. Twitter is where you'll get, right now, Twitter is where you're going to get the notifications from me that I am streaming. I always tweet earlier. I should say I try to always tweet earlier that I'm going on in a few minutes. And so usually you'll find me that way. But we'll get some other systems will be working here before long. Hi, Sandra. It's great to see everybody. Rain was out wearing a sweater yesterday, and today it's snowing. Yeah, it's just that crazy. It's just that crazy. Okay, so I'm going to show you where this idea came from that I have going on that we're going to play off of today. So back, quite a few years ago, I decided that I was going to, I saw this idea I saw it on the web someplace. I have no idea where, but saw the idea someplace, and it was around Valentine's Day that particular year, and I thought, oh, this would be a fun thing to do. And I'm sure that everybody has seen this kind of thing before, but hey, we're going to revisit it, right? So this is a deck of cards, and I decided that I was going to make these for everybody I knew. Well, as we all know, there's 52 cards in a deck of cards, not including the jokers. And if you include the jokers, you can get, several more cards into the deck. So I decided I would play with it. This is back before I really had any experience with supplies to speak of or anything else. So it is very primitive, shall we say. Let's say primitive. We'll just call it that. The cover is good, as far as it's some watercolor paper that I did back then when I was playing with watercolor. And the back cover is another piece of watercolor. But this is just a plain old deck of playing cards. And when I open it, and I even wrote some things around here in pen, which is kind of faded out, so it obviously was not a permanent pen at that point. But when I open it, you're going to be able to see what I mean about not really knowing too much about, I didn't know much of anything about mixed media, and but the sentiment was there. So this is, these were, I'll tell you how much I didn't know. I altered the cards, so to speak, with Distress ink. Now, Distress ink eventually dried on these cards, although I didn't sand them, I didn't do anything to them, and so I couldn't figure out why. They just seemed like they just stayed wet forever, right? So anyway, sorry, I was reading the chat for a minute. So I slathered on a little bit of Distress ink, and I had some of the world's ugliest scrapbook paper. Apologies to the company that created it. It was what I had. And I used, pardon me, I used a punch that, I don't know what size this punch is. We'll see. Okay, throats, hang with me, baby. It's 2.5 inch diameter punch. And so I punched out these circles, and you can see that I rubbed Distress ink all over those. And then I just wrote on each one of the cards. I didn't do anything to the cover, to the back side of, hey, Jess. I didn't do anything to the back side of the cards. I only just cut these out and then stuck them on, inked them a little bit, and then stuck them on the cards. This one happens to be for my husband. I gave to him for Valentine's Day that year. Now, I have to say that, like I said, I made these for everybody I knew, which meant my husband and the grandchildren, because they were the ones that were here. I don't think I did one of these for Race. Race, did I do one of these for you? I'm not much more mature than a 6-year-old sometimes, Jess. She says her 6-year-old says, "Hang with me, baby." Hi, Sarah. Anyway, so I did them for my grandchildren, and I'm sure they were done just as, clumsily as this one was done. But I have it on good authority from those kids that they read those very frequently, and that they meant a lot to them, because what I used it was 52 of my favorite things about, 52 of my favorite things about, that child, or 52 things I loved about that child, or whatever. And so, but the kids loved them, So anyway, that was that one. So fast forward, and a few years later, after I'd accumulated a few more techniques and so forth. I made this one out of die cut hearts, and so they're just all, a die cut heart, and I think I made it out of watercolor paper. I'm pretty sure it's watercolor paper. And I just used acrylic paints and, did washes and sprays and all kinds of stuff. And then I did stamping, and I just stamped and then just added little notes to it. So this was my Valentine that I gave to my husband a couple of years ago. And last night, it was funny, last night he went through both of these and read them. And when he looked at me, when it was all over, after he was finished reading them, I think there was a little tear in his eye. I think there might have been just a little tear. Anyway, so these are done just with die cut hearts. And, I colored some of them. They're all stamped. So they had stamps on the big sheet of watercolor paper first. And then as I went through the individual little pages, then I added more stamps. I added more words. I added little notes, like this says, "Time flies when you love someone." So this is a little heart with little wings on it. This one says inside or inspire. It says inspire. And then I wrote and be inspired and so forth. So anyway, this was dream big. Again, I didn't have a lot of stamps. So when I started doing this, I was really having to make them stretch. So this one says live your life, and I added the word well. No, I'm not going to do that, Jess. The ugly woman is still sitting over there waiting. Poor old ugly thing. I'm hoping she gets used for kindling one of these days. I'm hoping. I can always hope, can't I? So here are the different things. It says you're the cream in my coffee. We're the perfect blend. So you can see I had some tea and coffee stamps. And sometimes when I didn't have anything to write, I just did some coloring and so forth and so on. So anyway, this one was big, and this was big love. That was the stamp. And this was just a checkerboard design, and so I just put X's and O's inside the checkerboard design. And then this was because I love you. That was the stamp, and then I signed it. And I actually dated it. So anyway, then I punched a hole, decided that I was just going to hang it with one ring. And so that's what I did for that one. So I thought, well, we kind of play with the idea and update the whole deck of cards thing. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so you can see how very fat these, get my crud out of the way here. You can see how fat this deck of cards gets to be. After it's got all its stuffing in it. And I don't know how to say your name. Muktha? I'm not sure how to say your name, but welcome. Hi, Sharon. Sarah says, Barb, considering the theme, you might like to know that blank playing cards are available on Amazon. They're the size of bridge cards. Ah, how interesting. I had no idea. That's great. So I thought we would play with the concept. So I grabbed a deck of cards that was left over from, well, this deck of cards had been around my house, my family, literally since I was a kid. And I found these in some of my mom's stuff. Muktha. Oh, how interesting. Muktha, where are you? It's great to have you join us. Thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name. That's wonderful. Are you in Holland? I'm just guessing. Rain, you're a chatterbox? It's okay. Chat on. So this is the deck of cards, and you can tell that they've been around a long time because of the pattern, I'm sure. And I'm sure that they're considered vintage by now. Oh, great. That's wonderful. Thank you for joining us from Holland. So this is this old deck of cards, and it even has an insurance logo down here. So these were given out, you know, because I used to do that kind of stuff all the time. I don't know if they still do or not. Anyway, they're an old deck of cards. They're old enough that they're not even the size, the regular size of a deck of cards. These are 2 1/4 inches wide instead of 2 1/2 inches wide. So they're a little smaller than your average deck of cards. So I did the preparation on them already because I didn't want to do this here because it's just too messy. But I used sandpaper and I sanded each one of the cards on the inside. Hi, Victor. Nice to have you join us. So I sanded each one of them, and that they were already old and they're worn because of years of playing. My mom and I used to play solitaire, double solitaire, and we used to get into some real, rousing games. I know, sounds hokey as all get out, but we did. It's like who can do the fastest, and so it was fun. We even played a little bit of that after she moved in with me. But anyway, the cards were already pretty well worn, but they still had some of that glazed finish on them because you want cards to be slick. So I used sandpaper and I sanded each one of them, and it makes a mess. So you don't want to do this in your house, Thanks, Jess. 20 years from today is considered vintage. These are double vintage, I'm sure. So sanded, and then I took a cloth and I wiped all the sanding dust off. So that's how I prepared the cards. So then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of gesso in a cup. So I've got a cup here. Rousing Game. It just sounds so hokey, doesn't it? Oh, can't get my gesso open. Sounds hokey, doesn't it? A rousing game of double solitaire. I was quite a card and game player when I was a kid. Don't do it much now, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of gesso in this cup because I don't have very many cards to do. And I'm going to use a palette just to kind of blend the sponge a little bit. And I just have a makeup sponge. Makes me sound antique. Huh. Imagine such a thing. So I'm going to I don't want very much of the gesso here. So I'm just dabbing it off on my palette. And then I'm just going to dab the gesso all over the cards. Now, if you do it with a sponge like this, I found that, that it put a light coat of gesso on the card and it dried pretty quickly. So, but I could still see the numbers and so forth on the card. And the other thing that I recommend you do if you're doing something like this is that you have a baby wipe or something and clean up the gesso as you go off your surface. It just kind of helps to keep it from getting all over the back of the card. What kind of gesso are you using? This is just the Daler Rowney gesso. I got it at Walmart, which I don't think that they sell it there. I don't think they sell it at our Walmart anymore, but that's what I'm using. It's just Daler Rowney. Yeah, I've never tried the Artist Loft brand. I've tried the Golden brand, which is lovely. It's kind of like a Cadillac of gessos, and it's great. But for something like this, it's not worth, to me, it's not worth the expense. Hi, Teresa. Well, Teresa, I don't know if Race is still in the chat, but if he is, maybe he can help you out with that. The chat should be available right there on your screen. Are you on a computer, Teresa, or are you on a mobile device? If you're on a mobile device, scroll clear down to the bottom of the window, and you'll see at the very bottom of, at least on the phone, everybody's devices are different, of course, but on my iPhone, you just scroll down to the bottom of the window, and it has a little cue there for live. So anyway, I'm just going to gesso these cards and then let them dry, and I have some other ones already done, and so we'll move on. But I found by putting the gesso on like this, it does give it, you know, that priming of the surface, but it doesn't put down so much that you end up with a taking it forever to dry, you know. You know what I mean, Vern? As Paula, Journal Artista, would say. She didn't say it like that. I said it like that. Hi, Carrie. Miss I, Carrie Love, joined us today. Good to see you. So did you guys enjoy the show last week with Kyla? I was so happy that it all worked. I have to tell you, I was so happy. That was really fun. We're going to do more of that. I would love to know some of the people that you would like to see teach me things that because I will endeavor to get them to come on with me. So if you have suggestions, let me know. Hi, Kia. Well, the recording is there on YouTube, Rain. You probably want to see it. I would think you might want to see it. It was a lot of fun. Kyla Givehand was on with me, and she taught me some things about art journaling using watercolor. You know, there were some basic techniques, but they were really quite nice, fun. You know, some things that I think I'd tried in the past, but kind of had forgotten about. So Sarah did some of the painting, but didn't get as far as the quote. Well, Sarah, I gotta say, with two little bitty kids, I think it's amazing that you get done all the things you get done, my friend. I understand the need to create and be active when you have small children, but it always amazes me that you girls with little kids manage to just make it work. It's kind of like being a caregiver. If you're a caregiver for someone, and you're up to your you-know-what in alligators, it's important to do those things, but boy, it's a challenge to fit it in. Yeah, it was really fun. Hi, Janice. And hello to anybody that I may have missed. I'm trying to catch everybody as they start entering the conversation, but if I miss you, please consider yourself welcomed. I'm just thrilled that you're here. Been working on classes this week and working on a course of multiple classes, multiple video classes. So I've been working on that this week. In amongst, trying not to push too hard, because I was, the one thing that you can do when your body is not feeling great is try to push faster than it wants to go. Yeah, it has a way of telling you, no, 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 no. Okay, this is the last card for the gesso. Hi, Alma. Hello, Miss Dee Dee. Happy birthday, my friend. I know I'm a few days late, but happy birthday. I'm sure there's other birthdays that I'm unaware of. Okay, I'll yell really loud. Thanks, Race. You don't want to stay here and listen to me chatter? Imagine that. Okay, there's only this little tiny dab of gesso in here. We're gonna scoop it out because I'm gonna reuse this container here in a second. And he is a doll, isn't he? Okay, so I've got an empty container here. And for the moment, I'm done with my palette, so I'm going to just set it out of the way. Finished with the gesso, so we'll get it out of the way. So the next thing that I did is I wanted to add some texture to my my cards. So these are all gessoed and dry. These dried overnight, so you can see what they look like. And I'm just going to put these other ones, kind of scoot them off to the side. I'm only a day off, Dee Dee. If I'm only a day late, I'm going to tell you something. That's really good for me because I'm terrible at birthdays. My best friend had a birthday this week, and I did get a card sent, but it was late. Okay, so what I'm going to use to do this next step is I'm going to use just plain old Mod Podge. You can use whatever kind of stuff you want to use, but this is just a little deck of cards, so I decided Mod Podge it is. This container of Mod Podge is going down, and as we all know, if we don't use up our stuff, what happens? It goes bad, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use, for texture, I'm going to use crepe paper. This is just the kind of crepe paper that you make streamers out of, you know, for parties and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of guess at how long the strips are. I don't really care. I'm just going to rip up some strips. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that I put on gloves in a bottle to start with because of using the Mod Podge and gesso and all this other stuff. It gets on your hands, especially the Mod Podge gets on your hands. Any kind of glue like that gets on your hands and is kind of ugh. As our friend Zandra says, ugh. I love it when she says that. Oh, I also was going to tell you that I had the couple of my Dilutions paints went south, the pink and the purple. They were, as many people had trouble with that. They had some batch problems in the beginning, and so I contacted them, and they replaced them. No question. Well, I won't say no questions asked. They wanted me to send them, you know, the batch information and stuff like that, which I couldn't find because I think it had worn off the bottom of the. Pardon me for having to drink every so often, but I got to keep the vocal cords a little dampish. Anyway, I couldn't find the batch information, but I did have the receipt where I bought them. So anyway, they were great about replacing it, and the replacements came this week. So that was super. That was nice. Okay, crepe paper is really delicate stuff. What is gloves in a bottle? Gloves in a bottle, that you can see I did put links in the description box below the video, and so there's a link there if you want to click on it to get more information. But basically, it's a shielding lotion. It says on it, second skin with natural moisture for the hands, body, and face. It's like an invisible glove type thing. It's a barrier cream or lotion. So that's what it's for. And it just helps release substances like paint and glue and stuff like that. It helps it release from your skin more easily when you wash your hands. It's particularly effective for me if I do use things like dilutions, sprays, and things like that. Okay, so now I'm just putting a single strip of crepe paper on here. It's just to give it some texture. Let's see if I can show you so you can just see the texture there. Okay. And that's all I'm going to do to it. So it's nothing, it's nothing fantastic. It's just pretty simple stuff. And then I'm letting it just kind of hang off the edges, and I'm going to set it over there to dry. So we're going to do a few of those. I have a few cards ready for that, so I'm going to do that. So I'm just adding a swatch, a swath, a whatever of glue, of Mod Podge, and then I'm going to just add some on top of the crepe paper as well. Now, once crepe paper gets wet, it becomes vulnerable. So you want to, if you don't want to dig a hole in it, then you got to be a little careful with it when it starts getting wet, because it's pretty easy to mess it up. But I like the texture of the crepe paper. I just, and I don't really care if it gets on here straight. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. But I just thought it would be fun to kind of update take the concept of something that you already have. I mean, who doesn't have a deck of cards on hand that's, even if it's missing a card or two, who cares? This one, you can clearly tell that anyone who had the Queen of Diamonds would give themselves away because the corner's missing, which was another reason I chose to use this deck of cards. And also because they're really ugly. Interesting, Victor. Victor says they have a similar toilet paper, except it's gray. Sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat for a minute. Yeah, makes it easier to wash your hands. A ton easier to wash your hands. The place where I originally bought it was in a quilting store. So I'm not sure what they were doing, but anyway. But I have found that it just makes it so much easier to wash my hands and get the glue and paint and sprays and all that kind of stuff off of my hands. Okay, so I'm just letting the ends just hang over, and we're gonna do 2 or 3 more of these, and then we'll move on. I really like the crepe paper. Yep, napkins would be great as well. Absolutely. You could use the innards from your napkins that you don't use for, the pretty colored part, or you could use the colored part as well. But napkins would be great. Tissue paper would be fun. Anything that's nice and thin. Did you guys see that the sponsors got on Twitter today? Hi, Claire. Nice to have you join us. Oh no, Jess says she went to a buddy's house last week and he has black toilet paper. Oh, I don't know what I think about that. I don't know what I think about that. Truly. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure about that. That's just kind of like, almost makes you want to go, ooh. You saw the photo, Rain? Yeah, they put themselves on Twitter early today, and they were telling the world good morning. If you don't follow me on Twitter, it's at Barb Owen Designs. Okay, so that's probably, you got the idea. I have a few more to do, but, you know, there's no reason for us to sit here and glue paper shit, right? No reason to do that. You didn't sound rude, Teresa. That's fine. No worries. No worries, my friend. Okay, I'm going to throw the Mod Podge back in the bottle that I didn't use, so give me a second. I'm sure there's an answer, Teresa. In fact, if you contact me later on Twitter, maybe I can help you a little bit more. Okay, this is my glue brush that I have here. And because I'm not going to go put it in water at the moment, I'm just going to wrap it up in some plastic. And this one sits in water all the time. So when I get up to go wash the stencil or whatever later, I'll throw it in the water then. Jess. Yeah. Thought about stealing a roll of it. I don't know about that, Jess. I don't know. Okay, we're just going to set that to the side so we're done with that. Okay, so at that point, then what I did was I either let it sit or I used the heat gun and dried them. So step one was I sanded. Step 2 was I gessoed. Step 3, I put some crepe paper on the cards. That was what I did. If you guys have a better idea, hey, go for it. After they were completely dry, after the cards are completely dry, then I trimmed the excess crepe paper. I almost said toilet paper. See, you guys got me thinking toilet paper. You just got me thinking about toilet paper. Hi, Mallory. Welcome. And so then I just trimmed the excess crepe paper away from the cards. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray them with some different sprays. And so what I did, I think several of you heard me talking about my frustration about my silks, acrylic glazes that I have. They're little pots of metallic acrylic goodness, and they had almost dried up on me, but I got them just in the nick of time. And I put a bunch of distilled water, not a bunch, but I put several pipettes full of, hi Beth. Great to have you here. And so I put some distilled water and then stirred them up and revived them. And I decided that it would be fun to make sprays out of them. I saw the suggestion somewhere, and I had it in my notes. From whom, I don't really know. Maybe I can tell you. Let's see. Yes, from Tammy Gray on the Artist Seller site. That's where I got the idea for turning the silks into sprays. So I had some empty Mallory, what I'm doing is I'm just taking a deck of cards and altering the deck of cards to create a little altered art journal book type thing. That's what I'm doing. So I took water, distilled water, and I filled this up just a little over half full because in case it didn't work, I didn't want to totally ruin the whole thing. So I put in some distilled water, and then I just scooped some of the silks out. So I scooped some of the silks out. They're metallic and they're wonderful and they're yummy, but don't allow them to sit and not use them because they will go thick and you'll lose them. So I put several scoops of that in to each one of these and then just shook them up. Okay? Okay. So I have a bunch of the cards that are prepped and dry. Okay, so I'm going to just put them here. I'm going to deal myself a hand full of cards. And in case I didn't happen to say anything to you guys earlier, my name is Barb Owen, in case I forgot to tell you. Sometimes I get cracking on with making sure everything's working, and then I forget the important stuff. Okay, so I've just put these out here, kind of close, because I'm going to spray them all at one time. So the three colors I've used are teal zircon, key lime, and plumeria, which doesn't really matter. Just pick three colors that you like because they will all work. So I'm going to start out with, let's start with teal zircon. Okay, I'm going to shake them up. Hi, Abby. Nice to have you join us. If you look down in the description box below the video, you'll see a link to silks and you can go investigate those. They come in different color palettes. They used to be created by the company Luminart, and now it's by Color Art, I believe is correct. Anyway, so I'm just going to shake them up, and then I'm going to just give them a little sprinky dink. So not too much. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I wipe off the sprayer in an attempt to keep them spraying for a while. I covered the cards first with, the first thing I did was I sanded, this is an old deck of cards, very old. I sanded the surface, the face surface, and then cleaned them off with a rag, and then I sponged gesso on them to prepare the surface. Then I used crepe paper. So this is a strip of crepe paper, which is textured. Okay. So you can see, hopefully see the texture in the crepe paper there. And I put that on with Mod Podge. And then I'm letting that dry. This is all dry and trimmed up. And then I'm going to spray them with the silks. So these are the three colors that I'm using. I'm not sure whether you can, let me try it this way. Yeah, this is better. You'll be able to see the colors more accurately. So this is the plumeria, which is the pink. Then the zircon is this green, and then the teal, or the, sorry, key lime is the green, and the teal is the, yeah, teal zircon. So the green is key lime, the pink is plumeria, and then the other one is the teal zircon. Hi, Daisha. Okay. Wreck This Journal. Yeah, I don't have one of the Wreck This journals, but I'm sure a lot of the people in the audience have not only heard of it, they've used it. It's a fun journal. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit this with some heat, because what I want these colors to work together, but I don't want them to blend into one big muddy kind of color, which these colors are not likely to get muddy, but it's possible. that they would blend more than I want them to. So I'm just going to give them a little bit of heat. And if I have too many puddles, which I didn't use much spray, but I did use some, you know, some splot type things. If I get more than I wanted, then I'll just come in here and dab it. But I usually give it a little bit of heat first before I start dabbing, so that I don't lose the color. Bye, Mallory. Nice to have you join us. They are great colors. I think with the silks, I think that there's not a color that I don't like, honestly. Okay, so let's go with key lime next. And because I'm using such light amounts of the spray, I'm trying to get these here where you can see them for sure. It doesn't take them very long to dry. Okay, same thing. This one's key lime, so this is the green. So I'm not going to give it the full spray. I'm just giving it a little bit, just a little bit of color. And then again, I'm going to wipe off the nozzle. Make sure it's capped nicely. And then I'm going to, again, heat it with the heat gun. Now, one of the things I found as I was doing this is that the cards want to curl up. They want to curl as they're damp, you know, from the moisture, you know, using the moisture from whether it's gesso or Mod Podge or whatever. But I found that they will settle back down if you give them enough time to dry. So they'll flatten out if you give them enough time. If you keep pushing and keep adding more and more and more and more and more wet stuff, they're going to have to be weighted, you know, put under something heavy to flatten them back down. But, you know, it's just an altered deck of cards, you know. Hi, Eileen. Nice to see you. So just give them a little dab to get rid of the bulk of it. Hopefully you can see that they're beginning to take on some color. I'm trying to keep it very light because I don't want to overpower the top, you know, the message. So, okay, put things kind of back in order here. And now I'm going to use Plumeria, which is the pink, and spray that. So I'm trying to control the sprayer, which is easier said than done sometimes. So I'm not giving it the full plunge, and that's so that I can give it, you know, get some splatters going. And then I'm going to go back over that and heat it one more time. And then we're done with the silks. But you can see that through all of that, you can still see the card number and suit showing through. These would also make great ATCs because, well, the bigger cards, the deck that I originally showed, that's the size of an ATC. These are a little smaller. These are a little narrower in width. These are 2 1/4 by 3 1/2. Not quite sure why, but that's the size of this deck of cards. One of my favorite things when I was a kid is that you could get, and I don't remember why, it must have been some kind of promotional thing, that they would give you mini decks of cards, you know, they were like half the size of these. Oh, I loved those. I loved playing cards with those. They were so much fun. Hey, Miss Josie. Okay, so because there's not a lot of spray on these, it's not going to take long for them to dry. Good enough. Good enough. Okay, so the next thing I did, I'm going to just kind of gather these up a little bit, is I thought, well, I'll put some stamping on them, and so I decided to use some stamps and some black ink. And the set of stamps I'm using is from Clear Stamps, Scribbles, Hearts and Stars by Rona Farrar, and I apologize if I'm not saying her name correctly. Yeah, the emoticons are fun, aren't they? So I'm using some of these. So what I did is I pulled out the stars and I just put them on a block. And I'm just going to use a piece of paper under here just to protect my table a little bit. And then I'm not going to pay too much attention to how beautifully they stamp. I'm just wanting to get some stampage on there. But the scribbly, I tend to like the scribbly aspect of these. And they stamp really nicely on the crepe paper, which I wasn't sure that was going to be the case, but they did. It is a nice, pardon me, it is a nice set of stamps. It really is. So I'm going to let some of them hang off the side. If I want to, I'll add a little bit more. It doesn't matter because these are just simply to give it, you know, we're just building backgrounds. Oh, and once in a while, something like this happens where a corner of the crepe paper will peel back. So I just keep my tacky glue handy. And then I just add a little tiny dab of tacky glue. And then just smooth it back down. So I didn't find I had to do that with very many, but I did have to do it with some of them. So if you run into a similar situation, that's what I did. So just adding a little stamping. Maybe we'll change. Oh, there he is. Can you hear the sponsor in the background? He's like, I hear you talking. You must be talking to me. Yep, complaining. Tissue paper would be fine. Sure. Or napkin, paper napkin. Absolutely. Just try things and see what you like. Okay, so let's change to one of these other stamps, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to use these that are more open. The more open designs, rather than the ones that are going to put down a lot of ink. And maybe we'll stick this star in the corner, just for something different. If I don't like it, I'll stop. And I'm not after inking it really heavily because it's just texture, background noise. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that one. It's Drama-Free Friday. It is. And why do I call it Drama-Free Friday? because there's too much craziness going on in the world. And this is a place to just come and get away from it for a little bit. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. So we just pretend for a couple of hours like it doesn't exist. Ta-da! Hi, Anna. How did I start the cards? I took an old deck of cards, they're vintage cards, and then I sanded the face side, the part with the numbers and suits. I sanded them outside of my house so that I didn't get the sanding dust any place where I was breathing it. And then I brought them in, I cleaned them, and then I gessoed, sponged a coat of gesso on. Okay, so I sponged on a coat of gesso and let that dry. And then with Mod Podge, I applied a strip of crepe paper. It's just plain old white crepe paper. And after that, I trimmed off the crepe paper. And then I sprayed them with 3 different colors of sprays that I made up using Silk's acrylic glazes. So there's Silk's teal, plumeria, and lime. And then I stamped them. And by the way, did you know that on YouTube Live that you can actually scroll back? It's kind of like a DVR. You can scroll back and you can actually go back in live. If you miss something, you can actually go back and you can catch yourself up, which I think is a very cool feature. Not that I mind answering questions. That's not why I said that. I just thought maybe you didn't know about it. It's a very cool thing. Okay, and so there's our little... You're welcome. Hi, Emma. Miss Mad Rat. Okay, so that's our little stampage. So any questions so far? We good to go? Good to go on? Okay, so we're still working on these same ones, which hopefully are dry, but maybe we should hit them with the heat gun just to make sure. So we have some backgroundage. How do you like that? Got some backgroundage. All right, let's give it a little heat. Yeah, it's a fun feature to play with on the YouTube. So if you're watching somebody live on YouTube and you miss something, I was doing this the other day, a couple weeks ago actually, with Christy Sobolewski. Apologies if I mispronounce your name, Christy. You can, and there was something, I got there late, and so I scrolled back to see how she started. And it's very cool. It's a very cool feature. But as I said, I don't mind answering questions, no problem. All right, so we have those ready to go. So we got that little bit. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use some whipped spackle, which could be any kind of light molding paste or light modeling paste. This just happened to be the one that I was playing with. So this is the whipped spackle by Faber Castell. And it's really a nice light molding paste. And I'm going to use a stencil, and the stencil I'm using is, this is from Dina Wakley, and it is called the Mini Grunge Hearts. You'll find a link to it in the description box below the broadcast window if you want to see it. Mini Grunge Hearts, that's what I'm using. And I wanted to talk to you just a wee bit about stencils. I tried, first of all, to use this one, which is an art anthology stencil. I liked it because it's just a, dot pattern, and it's the one I had. That there are lots of people that make a similar stencil to this, but this was the one I had, and this one is called 6x6 dot. It says 6x6 dot matrix, but it's not 6x6, 6x9. Yeah, it's a 6x9. It says the right thing here, not the right thing on the back. Anyway, 6x9. Which is a cool size, but the material is much thicker than the Crafters Workshop stencils. And so I tried this one, but it left such high dots, because it's such thick dots. So I scraped that off. So if you're doing something like this, do a test, which I never do. I never do a test. I just go for it. And all these hearts are the right, are right side up, and the cards here have this logo thing at one end. I truly didn't pay any attention to that. I just went for it, and when I put them together, if they went right side up or upside down as far as the logo, I decided I didn't care about that. So, yeah. All right. Sorry, I have to keep drinking. I gotta keep the throat wet. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lay this on here, and I'm gonna pick. See how lovely that is? It's like working with marshmallow fluff. Funny stuff. Anyway, I'm just going to try to put on a really thin coat. 2 or 3 hearts, and then I'll just lift up the stencil. And if I get extra, places that I don't want it, I'm just taking it off with my finger. So I got some extra, so I'm just gonna scoop it off with my finger. So there you can see the whipped spackle. Okay. All right, then I'm going to set that aside to dry, and then I'm just going to keep going. And I may turn some of them kind of wonky, but I'm endeavoring, do you like my fancy word? I'm endeavoring to keep it as thin as I possibly can. And then if I get it places I don't want it, I just smear it out or pick it up with my finger. It's easy, and then just pick it up off the table. Yep, good to go. So do you guys have a preference? Any of you that work with modeling paste, do any of you have a preference about what kind of modeling paste or cream that you like to use? Or texture paste? I know Zandra of Scraps to Beauty has worked with lots of different texture pastes. Sandra likes the Ranger texture paste. Okay, cool. What is it that you like the most about that particular one, Miss Sandra, may I ask? Okay. I do like how this will just, I can just pick up the extra with my fingers and just get rid of it. It's creamy. Xandra says it's creamy and easy to spread. Cool. And Janice says she uses lightweight spackle from the hardware store sometimes. Eileen likes the Deco Arts because it's creamy. I haven't tried the Deco Arts at all. Josie wants to know, what is the difference between embossing paste and texture paste? I think they are pretty much the same thing, just with different names, but someone might be able to answer that question who has actually worked with the embossing paste and the texture paste. Zandra, have you tried those and compared them? I've worked with several different modeling pastes or molding pastes, but I have never tried the embossing paste. I've tried modeling cream from Viva Decor, which is lovely. It comes colored. It's not white. It comes colored with, and it's metallic, and it's lovely. But with, and I will tell you, with any of these products, once you open it, you need to use it. So, because if you think I'm going to save it and I'm going to, make it last and all that, the only thing you're going to do is let it dry up in the jar. Now, not every product will do that, but a significant number of them will. And wood filler, yep, wood icing is one of my favorites. From, I don't know if that's what you're referring to, Sarah, but that is what I've used. Jess says if you go watch Jennifer McGuire's comparison, they take ink differently when you ink over them once they're dry. So they're not exactly the same. Okay, good information. Thanks, Jess. Good information. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to finish up putting a little bit more of the whipped speckle on these. Now, if there is any that you want to wipe off, you need to get it while it's wet, because if you wait until it dries, you're not going to get it off. So you can see that when if there's some of the spackle, whipped spackle that I want to get off of there, I just take it off with my finger. Now, you don't want to stack these on top of each other to dry. That would not be cool, because I'm sure they'll just make a big mess. And with any embossing paste of any kind, or texture paste, or modeling cream, or anything, as soon as you're finished with it, with a stencil, you want to go stick it in water. You don't want to let this stuff dry on your stencil, because you will not be a happy camper. Sometimes you look at it and go, good enough, moving on. everything's working great. Everything's working like a charm. Like a charm. No more of that message that we were getting before, Mr. Race. So, yeah. And the stream health is never wavered. It has been good the entire day, which is lovely. My friends in the box are chatting up a storm. All is right with the world. Which of the existing modeling paste is the best? Victor, I don't have a definitive answer about that, because my experience so far has been that I have had good success with, I would have to say I've had success with all of them. The only problem you run into is if you don't, once you open the container, if you don't use it, they will dry out. Has been my experience. Now, some of the people in the chat might have a different experience with that, so I'm sure they will be glad to answer that question with their experience also. Okay, so we're going to go like this on this one just for something different. Xandra uses the texture pastes and embossing pastes a lot, so she probably has some great suggestions there for you. Okay, so we've got those finished. So you got to put the lid right back on this, and you got to clean your tools quickly. So put the lid on very securely. Clean your tools off. You want to get every little tiny bit of the paste off. And then I'm going to go throw this in a sink of water, so I will be right back, okay? So 1 minute or less. Okay, any questions so far? Absolutely, Victor, I understand. Hi, Pavla. So Pavla says she's had a bad experience with the Viva Decor, with it clogging the stencils or filling the stencils up. Yeah. No, Race, telling them bad things. That Henri son of mine. Okay, so let's give these a little shot of steam. Listen to me. I must be sewing in my head. So we're just going to give these a little shot of heat. He's being ornery. That's what he's doing. He is being ornery. Giving me a hard time today. So what's new? Since he's giving me a hard time, I'll tell you a story about him. When he was a little boy, we had a friend. Well, I had a retail store, and this friend of mine was helping me. Not only was she helping me by staying with him and kind of, making sure he was okay. He was really old enough. He could kind of be trusted on his own, but, Mom didn't feel good about leaving him completely to his own devices. So she was staying at my house, and she was also doing some cleaning for me. 'Cause Lord knows I'm always behind on housework. And so she was cleaning away, and we had just gotten a video camera. Now, this was when video cameras were relatively new, and he was having a great time because nobody was there to tell him not to use it. And so he was out there with the video camera taking pictures of her. And all we could hear was her voice on these were tapes at that point in time. All we could hear was, "Young man, you better not have that video camera on me. You better not have that video camera on my backside." And the next thing you hear is this little voice going, and he was just cackling up a storm. And she wasn't really that upset. She was just, kind of upset. It was funny more than anything. Anyway, so he's been doing ornery stuff his entire life. Let me just tell you that. Okay, so here's what I'm doing now is I'm using some Inka Gold. This is the Inka Gold Metallic Rub from Viva Decor. This color is gold, conveniently. And I'm just going to, okay, now let me tell you that the Viva Decor company will tell you that you need to dig this out, not use it don't dig in here with your finger, okay? So I'm telling you that that's what you're supposed to do, and that's not what I'm doing, but that is what you're supposed to do, is dig it out and then work off of a palette or something. Although I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use my finger. I'm the only one that used these, and so if they start growing something, it's, I know that the bacteria or whatever has come from me and no one else. So there you go. And so I'm just using it to highlight to catch the edges of the modeling paste, molding paste, spackle, texture paste, whatever it is. So I'm just catching some of the edges and picking up some of the gold. So it's just adding a little bit more, something a little bit different to the cards. Yeah, he was getting a start on his career. His filmmaking career started early, didn't it? Do you notice how he stopped talking? Yeah, he stopped talking. Stopped giving me a hard time when I started cracking out the stories now, didn't he? He's a good guy, let me tell you what. He is a good man. He is talented. This is the mother's time to brag. He is talented. He is kind. He is amazingly smart. Yes. He's a great actor, too. Exactly, Jess. Exactly. If it grows something, it's from me. And they do tend to, the Inka Golds do tend to sometimes, especially the early renditions, tended to get, some mold in them. And sometimes they would go too dry. I think from what I've understood that they have made some improvements in that, although I don't have any of the later renditions. Because I'm still working on these jars, and I have a world of it. So I just have to remember every so often to get them out and use them. The other thing I have to remember is to change out the baby wipes. I always put a baby wipe in them, and I frequently shoot them with some distilled water to make sure that the moisture level stays in them. As long as I do that, we're good to go. He won't blush. He'll just tell me not to tell stories after this. He'll just tell me. He'll just give me a bunch of grief. That's all right. That's all right. He gets me back. Believe you me, he gets me back. You know, there are, and I say this with all the kindness, not just because I am because I'm related to him, but I say it because it is true. There are a lot of people in this world that I wouldn't walk across the street for, if you know what I mean. Because, you know, they're just not, I just have keep a healthy distance from them. He is one of the good people. He is one of the good guys. So, now, he's strong. He doesn't take any grief off anybody. He's strong. He's opinionated. And he will stand up for himself. And you know what? I am grateful that he does. And there are many things that he has taught me also. So we work together quite well for the most part. That's right. That's right. It's a mother's prerogative. He's one of the people that if I were not related to him, I would still like him. And I can't say that about everybody I'm related to. Sadly enough. See what happens when I do repetitive work? I get my mouth going. I get myself in trouble. I can get in trouble. Okay, so I'm just going to finish slopping the Inca Gold on here, which is kind of what I'm doing. I'm just not worrying too much about where it goes. I'm trying to catch. He does, Josie. He does. True enough, Jess. True enough. So all of this is just about background, right? It's just about putting a foundation down here so that you've got, you know, some unity within the whole thing so that it all goes together. So, you know, I am going to put all these cards back together in one little altered art journal type thing. Of course, you could it would be also just as fun as all get out to take each one of these just like an ATC and make each one completely different. I mean, that could be a great, you know, do one every week. At the end of a year, you'd have, you know, you'd have a whole little art journal book filled with all different kinds of little pieces of art, which would be fun. Kind of like doing the iCads, which is a index card a day, kind of like that. So you could make them all different, of course. I'm choosing to do them so that they are very similar to each other, which I'll show you here in a little bit. What time of day is it? Oh, we're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well. We've only been working on this an hour and a half, and we got quite a few of them finished. Well, one of my favorite things that those of you that know who Wayne Dyer was, he's passed away several months ago. One of my favorite things that he said, truly, this is one of my favorite things that Wayne Dyer ever said. And it was that your friends are God's excuse for your family. Yeah. Y'all can write that down. You need to write that down, put it in your art journal. Make that a quote in your book. Victor, that would be a nice book. Nice art journal or whatever. Great idea. That's a great idea. Isn't that the greatest? When I heard him say that or read it, I don't know which it was. If I heard it or read it, I tell you, I turned around and wrote that down because it's like, I don't ever want to forget that. That is just too funny. And a little too close to home at that moment. Okay, so now, before I put this away, this is what I do. This has distilled water in it. I give it a few sprays of distilled water. I put the baby wipe back on the top of it, and then I cap it up. That's how I deal with my Inca Golds. That's what I do. This is one of the very early ones. True enough. True enough. Okay. So let's see. What did I do after that? I'm going to ink around the edges. And I'm going to ink around the edges with black ink. And I'm just going to use, this is a little piece of cut and dry foam. And so I'm just going to ink around the edges. It just helps to frame a little bit. So hopefully you can see that. But, you know, I just kind of like this process of adding texture and adding a few different little elements to make it, but nothing that's terribly, terribly textured. There's a little texture, but not a lot of texture. And I like that because it will allow the little book, when I put it together, to stay, it'll get a little fluffy, but it'll still stay relatively flat. I would love to know where everybody's from. If you want to stick that information in the chat, I'd love to know where you are in the world. I know where some of you are. But I think we have a pretty eclectic international audience watching today, which I'm thrilled about that. It's fun. So we have Seattle. Hi, Josie Gitto. Plymouth, UK. San Antonio, Southern California, snowy Massachusetts. Josie's in Italy. Welcome. We have 2 Josies here today. I think I knew that about Josie Gitto. And I'm probably saying your name improperly, and I apologize for that. Oxford, UK, Australia. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Oxnard, California. New Jersey. Eastern North Carolina, another New Jersey, Raleigh, North Carolina. Boy, what a great audience. Kansas City, USA, which is not very far from me. Ukraine. What a great worldwide audience. Where else except here on the internet could you be in the same location like this? Never. Without the internet, this would not be possible. It's just an incredible thing. When you think about it, the internet is not all that old. So how cool is that? British Columbia, Canada. So great. Thanks for doing that, everybody. It's so nice to see where everybody's from. Excellent. Okay, so we've inked around these, the edges of these. And so let me clean up my little crumbs here that came off the sponge. And Pavla's in, I forgot exactly where she's from. It's such an international community, yeah. Oh, Josie's real home is Toronto. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to take myself out of the picture a minute. International and drama free, exactly. Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Cool. Yeah, Rain. Okay, so we'll just put these, get these out here for a second. Fill up the pictures so you can see the ones we've been working on. Okay, so there are all the ones we've been working on. I'm going to hit them with a little bit of heat. And I am in the Midwest. I'm in Missouri. So just to give them a little bit of heat, just to make sure everything is just kind of set, make sure the ink is dry and all that kind of goodness. Okay. Alrighty then. So what I've done now is I have taken one of the cards, this particular one right here. Let's move these out of the way. This one right here happened to be one that was torn, and so I don't know whether you're going to be able to see it or not. But right here, the card was torn, completely torn, and nothing I was doing was fixing the issue. And so what I ended up doing, even though I put a double layer of the crepe paper and stuff on there, it was, you know, it was still not going to be enough. So I decided that that card was going to be my cover. So I used a piece of, this is paste paper that I did. And if you want to know how to do paste paper, if you'll look it up in the videos, you'll find 2 classes on paste paper, 2 examples of the classes that I teach on the website. I was trying to think, paste paper pizzazz, and forgot the other one. Anyway, you'll find them on the website or on the YouTube channel. So this is one of the pieces of paste paper, and so I used tacky glue and I glued the outside of the card to the back side of the paper, and then put it under some weight because this is cardstock and it's already kind of a little annoying. And so I put it under weight and let it dry, and then I inked around the edge the exact same way that I inked around these. Okay. And then I decided where I wanted to have my holes, because I'm going to have 2 rings hold my little art journal book together, and so I decided where those holes were going to be. And then I punched the holes using this We Are Memory Keepers 1/4 inch, I forgot what this thing is called. It's not just hole punch, power punch I think is what it's called. So I'll show you how I did that. Like, you guys don't know, but maybe you don't. So I'm going to take all my cards, and because the hearts are directional, I'm going to put the hearts going up. So I'm just going to arrange my hearts. Now I can put them in different order later. This is just simply for the purpose of putting the holes in. So I'm going to kind of get them together. So I've got the right side, which side I want going up. And then I'm just going to put my card, use this as a pattern. I'm going to lay it down and just run around with a pencil in the hole. Okay, so I can see where that is, and then I'm going to put a couple of cards together at one time. Now, these power punches, you can take this, this assembly will come out, and then you have full access, full view to that hole. And then you can look down inside and you can see exactly where that hole is. You can line it up and just punch the holes. Okay? So we'll do that with a few of these. And I might even be able to do it with 3 cards. I'm not sure. We'll try it with 3 and see what happens. But this way I don't have to measure. I just use 1 as my guide. We'll try it with 3. See if it'll go through 3 with all this stuff. Kind of got to get it in the light so I can see it. Yeah, I went through 3, no problem. And you can actually set the depth of the hole punch, which is nice also. I'm usually too lazy to do that. Yeah, the power punches are great. They're very strong. This one punches, I think it's a 1/4 of an inch hole, where the not the big bite, it's the crocodile punches other sizes of holes. So if you want a 1/4 inch hole, the crocodile doesn't do that. You got to get this one or use a standard office supply hole punch. But once I realized that black gizmo would pop out of there, it made looking through to find the holes so much better. Now, I will say one thing about using these. If you have a small hand, or if you have any kind of hand issues, it's going to be a challenge to use that. So, just so you know. Okay, so these are the last ones, and then we have this whole section that we've been working on today all done. Well, this side is all done. And then the power punch will clip shut, slide shut, and then you can take this gizmo and then you slide it back in, which I'm probably not going to take the time to do here, but it's easy to do if you just get it lined up properly, and I'll do that later because I'm making it look awkward. Not good to make it look awkward. You can't hear me? You lost sound. Really? I'm back. Okay, good. Okay. I didn't show that I had any issues here, so I'm not sure. Anytime you have a problem, the first thing to do is reload your page and see if that fixes it. Okay, so here are the beginning. This is the beginning of the little book. Now you can see how fluffy it's getting. This is not all the cards. This is probably not quite half of them. So you can see how fluffy it is. All right. And this one, the back side of this, I still have to add color to and so forth and so on. But I want to do something to the other side of the page, because when you flip these, you know, you have to keep in mind that this is going to show. Okay, so this is going to show as you flip the cards, like so, right? And I don't think that this goes well with this. So what I did was I treated the backs of the cards a little bit too, so they had a little bit better look that worked a little bit better with the front side. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use some of the inks that go, this one I used the Archival Aquamarine. I used that entirely for this one. I also have the Archival Magenta Hue, and I also have the Archival Fern Green. And so those three colors of ink will work fairly well with what's on the other side. Thanks, Ella. Good to see you. So that's what I'm going to do now. And so I'm going to use, we'll do about, this many in pink. We'll do about this many. We'll do about that many in that color and about this many in this color. So I'm just, you know, just divvying them up. So what I'm going to do now is, sorry, just reading the chat a minute. I'm going to use the magenta. And I'm just going to sponge on a little bit of the ink. Just to tint the back of the card a little bit more. So I'm using a piece of the cut and dry foam, and so I'm just going to tint the card. It'll just start the process of adding some color. Now, I have not sanded these cards at all. Okay? So the back side, the outside, whatever you want to call it, the right side, whatever side, this side, the side that on the cards that all looks alike, I have not done anything to them. I think I just confused my stacks. Oh well. It doesn't matter. There's plenty more cards to do. And I'll do one more of this color, then we'll switch colors. It's kind of fun to work on something that is small, I have to say, you know. It's just a nice switch from working on big things. All right, let's switch to this, which is Fern Green. It was kind of fun to relive. Some of these cards are bent and cracked and everything else. I think by the time they have all the stuff on the other side, you know, with the Mod Podge and all that kind of stuff, I think that they'll probably be okay. If they crack, all the way through for some reason, it's okay. Not to worry. They were destined for the dump anyway because they weren't a good deck of cards. I mean, when you got one that the corner's gone off of, that's kind of a dead giveaway that you're not playing fair, right? When you're playing cards with a card that's already marked and you didn't even mark it. Yeah, I know what you mean, Sarah. Sarah says she has a hard time working small. I get that. And when you get down to working the size of inchies and things like that, whew, that's really getting small. All right, since I've already got the aquamarine colors, we'll just do these all in green. And then once again, I'm going to give them another shot of heat just to make sure that the ink is pretty much set. Okay, so we got that. So let me heat them up again just a little bit. So we got some pink ones, some green ones, and some teal colored ones. Sarah says she bought some ATCs and they're still in the package. I understand. It took me, I'll tell you that I'll tell you what I find easier, working with ATCs and stuff like that, is to make a big sheet and cut it down. So what I would do with ATCs, if it were me, Sarah, I would temporarily stick them side by side by side across and make one big sheet. And then I would treat them all as one thing and then take them back apart. That's how I would do that. Because I have the same issue. It's easier for me to work big than it is to work really small. Okay. So now to make them work even a little bit better, I'm going to separate them out. So I have the green ones together and the pink ones together. And then these are already completed, so I'm not going to worry about them. And I'm going to go back to my glazes, my original glazes that I used in the very beginning. And I'm going to use a little bit of water and a big wide brush. The reason for the water is because I need to get the brush damp to start with. So I'm going to have it off to the side on this extra table. So I'm just going to get the brush damp and then wipe it off on my paper towel. And for the pink ones, I'm going to use the Plumeria glaze. Silk glaze, and I'm going to stir it because I have added water to these, so I'm just going to stir them up just to make sure that it's, because they do have a glimmer in them, so I'm just going to make sure that it's all in there. Hi, Deborah. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dip in the pot of glaze and wipe some of it off, and then I'm going to give these a coat of glaze. And you're going to see it beat up a little bit. But all I'm after is to alter the color just a little bit. A little bit more. So I'm doing this in an effort to get these so that they'll work together with the other side of the card, because the red and the gold, you know, not my best color combination, but I'd already started the other sides when I went, oop, you know, those aren't going to necessarily look so great together. But I want it to look a little bit streaky and, a little different, because I don't want, it's a little art journal. I don't want it to be perfection. If I wanted perfection, I'd go buy one. I'd go buy a book already done. But because I want to alter it myself and to create my own little book with it, whatever it happens to be, I'm not after perfection. I'm after just tinting the back side of the cards. Then when I go to put them together, I'll mix them all up. So sometimes when you flip, it'll be a pink one, sometimes it'll be an aqua colored one, sometimes it'll be a green one. These are permanent when they're dry, which is what's nice. So they are acrylic glazes. It's nice that they are permanent when they're dry. And it doesn't take very much to cover the card. And the other thing that these are doing is that they're picking up any imperfections in the card, just, crud, dirt, cracks, whatever. They're picking up those imperfections. Good night, Victor. Thanks for joining us. Hope you have a good sleep. Great to have you visit with us. These little pots of glaze, when I bought them, were not expensive, but they're too expensive to just let them sit there and ruin. So I'm determined to use them up. Now I'm going to go back to the green color that I used before, which is key lime. And once again, I'm going to stir to make sure that everything is working for me. And wash out the brush. Get rid of the pink as much as possible. And now I'm going to do the green ones. That reminds me of years ago. I probably have told this story to you guys. Years ago, I went to a quilting retreat. Oops, wait a minute. Sorry. If you catch a black screen, don't worry. That was my computer that all of a sudden decided it was going to take a nap. It was tired. So if that happens, if you see the screen go black, no worries. Be right back. Okay, so anyway, years ago I went to a quilting retreat, and in this quilting retreat, everybody was doing their own thing. And most of them are very traditional quilters. And, I'm not so much. I've done a couple of traditional quilts. Well, actually, I've done 2. So a couple does qualify. I've done 2 traditional quilts. But I am more, when I do quilting, I do more of art quilting. And so I was going to do this with my friend, who is a very traditional quilter. Hey, Deb. Nice to see you. Good to have you, even for a few minutes. So I went to this retreat with my friend, and I decided that I was going to work on some little art quilts that were based on the chakras of the body, because I was just studying the chakras. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, the energy centers of the body, and each one is associated with a color. So I'd gone through my stash of fabrics, and I had pulled out, the red fabrics and the red embellishments and the, red threads and all that. And I'd done the same thing for the orange and the yellow and the green and blue and so forth. So I went to this retreat, and I hauled in all my stuff because I really didn't know what I was doing, truthfully. I just couldn't think of anything else to do, and I knew I had to do something. And so I was sitting by my friend, and I got out my sewing machine, and I'd been going through a pretty rough time. So my life, I was just pretty much getting my life back on track. And just to get there was an effort. I mean, it was a big effort just to get myself to this thing. I had to drive several hours to get there. I won't bore you with the details. It just took a lot of effort. Anyway, I got there, got my stuff set up, and so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to start working on these little art pieces. They were, I don't know, I think they're 8 by 10 or 8.5 by 11. I've forgotten what size I ended up doing them. I have them hanging in my studio, so I could get up and go measure them, but no, I won't do that. It would be far too easy. Oh, a chocolate bracelet, that would be nice. That would be great. So I started working on my stuff, and I started from the base chakra, which is red. So I'm making the red piece. And I didn't know what to call these. I'm just doing them. I'm making it up as I go along, which is what I do with a lot of things. I make it up as I go. And so I'm doing the red one, and the person who was in charge of the retreat was sitting across the table from me. I was sitting beside my friend. That was the reason I went to this. And across the table was the gal who, had organized it. Very traditional quilter, to the point of, at that point in time, this is several years ago, it was all browns, tans, very, very muted colors. They're what I call muddy colors. I don't know that that's a correct terminology, but that's what I call them. Okay, let me think a minute. All right, the next thing that I did was, let's see, what did I do next? Look at my notes. I inked the edges. Okay, so these are dry. So I'm going to ink around the outside edges with the black archival ink. So that's what I'm going to do while I carry on yapping. Okay, so the gal sitting across the table from me, I'm using black archival ink, and I'm just going around the edges. And she says to me, "What are you doing?" Like I had, and I'm like, I don't know. What did I do? I thought I had done something wrong. And she said, "No, what are you making?" And I said, I don't really know. Well, that was not an acceptable answer. She was very upset that I didn't know what I was doing, because she always knew what she was doing. She owned a store, and, from a store owner's perspective, you have to know what you're doing. Your day has to be planned. You have to know, what's up. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing this. And she was so upset with me. She was so upset with me. Oh, sorry, my nose decided to go on a walkabout. She was very upset that I didn't know what I was doing, and I got done with this whole red piece, and I loved it. She hated it. Literally hated it. and hated it even more that I couldn't tell her what it was called. And I said, I don't know. I'm just making some little quilt thing. I finally said, I'm just exploring color. And she said, well, why on earth would you pick that color? It's like, I don't know, because I liked it. I don't know. And the next thing I know, I have all of these people in the room, starting to ask me what I'm doing. And I'm like, I don't know. And so then they started trying to tell me what I was doing, because it was very important to them that it had a name. And, I wasn't about to get into the discussion of energy centers of the body and chakras and all that kind of stuff, because I knew that wasn't going to go over for whatever reason. Anyway, so she says, Miss Store Owner person says, I got the red all completed, and I said, so I was moving up, and I was now working on orange. As my son used to say, orange. So I'm working on the orange one, and, I'm loving it. I'm feeling, for the first time in several years, I was feeling creative, and I was feeling good, and I was having a great time doing these pieces. And she looked at me and she says, what are you doing now? I said, I'm making an orange one. And she said, that first one, what was it? One of them made her sick at her stomach, and the other one gave her a headache. And I don't know which was which, quite honestly. Like it matters, And, she even took one of my pieces and hid it for a while. I think she was just being funny, but it was kind of annoying. And, okay, I got them all. I'm done. So she hid one of them, which I have to say, for a moment, really, really, really annoyed me a lot. Because I didn't know what she had done with what I was working on. And I was having such a good time doing it, Okay, I'm going to hit these with some heat again. Exactly, Deb. Boy, you just don't know how much, how hard it was for me to even get to this thing, let alone, listen to her criticize what I was doing, because it was not her color palette and all of that, I learned a lot. I have to say, I learned a lot doing this that weekend, because I learned what you didn't say to someone else, So, anyway, I'll keep telling the story. I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do. These turned out to be a little sticky, and so what I'm going to do to eliminate that problem is I'm going to use some of the micro glaze. This is the Judykins micro glaze. Ranger now has it labeled as distress glaze or distress micro glaze, So anyway, it's the same thing. And so I'm just going to use a little bit of this with my finger, and I'm just going to rub it on the surface, only the back surface, over the glaze and all that, not the other surface. Okay, so then I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to let that dry. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to buff them. So that's what I'm doing to treat the back of the cards. So anyway, back to the quilting story. So she was unhappy with me, and I had so little. I have to say, in that moment, because life was just so bloomin' strange, had been just before this all happened, that my self-confidence had taken such a humongous hit. And so, I wasn't coming back at anybody about anything. I didn't have the confidence in myself at that moment to tell her to back off or anything, which I would now. That's a whole different story today. But back then, this was, like I said, several years ago, and things were a little different. So anyway, I just kept soldiering on, doing my thing, and just letting her sit over there and huff and puff about how I didn't know what I was doing. And I certainly, she kept doing it with, what made it worse was she kept doing it with a smile on her face, You know how people do that? Tell you, I hate your guts, with a big old smile on their face, one of those. And you go, I wonder if they really do, Anyway, so I just kept on doing my thing. Well, like I said, we had all these people coming over to because it was a big old room full of people. So they were coming over and watching, looking at what I was doing. And one of them came over and she said, they kept asking me what it was. It's like, I don't know. So, and then they started telling me what I was doing. They started naming it. And so there was one time that one person said, you're doing this. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I said, oh, thank goodness. Now I have an answer. So the next person that came over asked me what I was doing. I said, well, she said that I was making X. And she said, oh, you are not? I'm like, whoa, okay, well, that didn't work. So anyway, the classic of all of these, though, was I had done the red, orange, yellow, and I was ready to start the green fabric. So, I mean, I'm actually accomplishing something. And the best part of the whole thing was this girl walks over to me, she looks at what I was doing, and she says, now you're making a green one. I said, well, sure enough I am. I'm making a green one. I'm telling you. I have never in my life tried to do something. Bye, Deb. I've never tried to do something so much of just, minding my own business as I did that day, and got in trouble for it. I was just trying to mind my own business, but nobody was going to let me do that. But that was the perfect answer. Oh, now you're making a green one. I said, I am. And she said, how many are you going to make? I said, I'm going to make them till I'm done. So there you go. So now I have green ones, I have pink ones, I have aquamarine colored ones. Yes, I do. No, they couldn't, Josie. No, they couldn't. Oh, no, there's nothing to be angry about. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was good. It was a very good thing for me. The way you learn to stand up for yourself is to be tested. Okay, so the glaze is on there, and then I'm going to buff them with a soft cloth. I'm going to try and find a place that's new. That was nothing compared to what I had gone through the years before that. Nothing, Sarah. So I'm just buffing the glaze, and so what that has done now is it's taken the stickiness off of the cards, and it has put down a protective barrier over the ink and the silks acrylic glazes and the ink around the edge. Okay, and so that's how I did that. I do quilt, but I do mostly art quilting. I don't do much. I did a traditional quilt a year ago. I made a traditional quilt in a very short time, and that was for my granddaughter when she graduated from the university. She completed her bachelor's degree, and she had graduated summa cum laude, which here that is with highest honors. And in our family, when my parents were living, they made a certain style of quilt. It was a sunbonnet baby quilt, and my parents made those for all of the girls in the family. And my parents are gone, and it never occurred to me that that was going to be an issue, because my granddaughter is actually my husband's daughter's daughter, and although I'm the only grandmother on this side of the family she knows, it never occurred to me, I just never even thought about it, that someday she would find out, not that I was trying to keep a secret from her, but that someday she would find out that all the girls in the family got quilts when they graduated, either from high school or college, and she didn't get one for either. So, yeah, my same friend, the one that I went to that retreat with, the same friend, she gets me in trouble, let me tell you. She said, you've got to make a quilt. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. I'm so not a quilter. And so she helped me, and by golly, we did. Thanks, Emma. Great to have you here. So we got that quilt done in very short order. And it was a large queen size quilt. And got it done for her and gave it to her on the day that she graduated. I think it was 5 weeks from beginning to end, and I had it quilted. A friend of mine, I mean, it was one of those things that just worked out, you know. A friend of mine offered to quilt it. She was a professional quilter. I mean, I paid her well to do it, you know, but she offered. I didn't ask her. I never dreamed anybody would be able to get that quilt done. Quilted. I thought I'd be giving it to her as a quilt top. And I was able to give it to her as a completed quilt, and she, believe me, was aghast at the whole thing. You know, she knew the story of the quilt by then, and everybody getting one, but she never thought she would get one. And yeah, it was great. It was great. Power quilting is right, let me tell you. It was a power quilting experience. But I was determined. I was determined. And it was right before Christmas. I was like, oh, how am I going to do this, you know? Still going great. Still going great. Okay, so let's just kind of, you know, put some of these together. And then I'm going to show you the little finishing kind of thing, and, you know, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of put these together in whatever kind of order. You know, I don't know. They probably won't stay like this. But hey. Okay, so let's say that that's how those are going to go. And then here is this one that's going to go. And then here is our top. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for checking. Bye, Cinda. Okay, so here we go. This one still has to be completed on that side. Oh, and this is going to have to, I'm going to have to make a different one here, but never mind, because I want to have, okay, whoops, wake up, computer, wake up, there we go, because I need two that are facing, when I flip this open, I need two that are facing here, and then it'll do what it's supposed to do. Anyway, so I'll deal with that. But once I flip this, like so, they're going to have to go like this. Sorry, I got myself confused. Goes like this. Goes like this. So this one flips like this, and then the rest of these open like this. See, now I'm going to get it straight. And then this will flip up, and then this will go like so. Okay? So they'll flip, and then I'll have different colors as I go through. All right. Duh. Sometimes I have to straighten myself out. So the next little thing is to decide what's going to go on the pages of this little art journal. And so in the light of saying to the person I'm going to give this to, these are the 52 things I like about you, or that I love about you, or the whatever about you, or the 52 things that I encourage you with, or that you make me smile about, or whatever. I used a 1.5 inch, this is a 1.5 inch punch. I don't know if you can see that. Try to catch the light. It says 1.5 inch right there. That's the size punch. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I just punched a whole bunch of circles out of cardstock. Okay, so punch circles out of cardstock. Then I'm going to use a variety of inks, the different colors of ink, like the same three that I've used, the green, the pink, and the aquamarine. And then I'm going to put them on here and just kind of tap them a little bit just to get a little bit of color, like that. I don't need a lot, just a little bit. Okay, just tip them off. All right, so I'm just coloring the circles a little bit. This one could use a little tiny bit more. Like that. And then some of the green ones. Back to the old green one. And now you're making a green one. So a little bit of green on there. Okay, so those have a little bit of color on them. And then just to make them a little more unique and set them up off of the card a little bit, I'm going to ink around the edges. Okay, so ink around the edges. This is black. And I'm just going around the edges just so that the circles have a little bit more definition. So it'll pop them up off the surface a little bit. So I'm just going to do these 6 just so you can get the idea of where I'm headed. So our granddaughter is graduating in May with her master's degree, and I told her, I said, there will be no quilt. There will be no quilt for your master's degree. I got to come up with something. As she has maintained a 4.0 average, which is the highest average you can. It is perfection. So I'm going to have to do something. Don't know what yet. Okay, so then I made a list of things down here. So it's just my list of what it is that I'm thinking about, that I want to write on here. So then I'm just going to take one of these and I'm going to do it in pencil first. If you're really confident in your handwriting, which not so much, I'm going to do it in pencil and then go over it with pen. So this one I'm going to write the words, your spirit. Okay, so I'm going to start in the middle of the word your. O-U-R. Because then I have a pretty good idea how much space it needs to fill. And I know you can't see that yet, but you'll see in a minute. And the word spirit is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. And so I need the I and the R in the middle. But that way I can just kind of make sure that the letters are all going to fit. She is studying occupational therapy. So this is a Pitt pen. Okay, so I have the word your, and then I'm going to go over the letters down here. And what I'm doing is trying to fill most of the real estate of that little circle. And then just to enhance it a little bit more, I'm going to thicken up the first letter of each word and part of each of the other letters. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of give myself the guide for where I'm going to thicken things up. Okay, and then I'm going to fill it in. The parts that I'm going to thicken up. This is the kind of stuff you can do, if you're listening to a book on tape, or on, an audio book, I should say, or if you're watching television, or if you've got somebody on a live stream and you don't want to just sit there, you can do something like this. And, it's something productive for you and for the person that you're celebrating. And you know what? This could be you that you're celebrating. Could be the things that you like about yourself. That's a good exercise, too, to make a whole list of things that you appreciate about yourself. Because too much of the time we spend being hard on ourselves, if you know what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to give this just a wee bit of heat just to make sure that ink, this is an India ink permanent one, dry. Just make sure it's dry. Hi, Artie Fairy. Miss Joanne, good to see you. I am feeling much better. Thank you so much. I am much better than last week. And last week I was much better than I was several days before. Yes. Okay, so I just used a little white plastic eraser to erase off any of the pencil. And then to get these to stick down to these little pages, I'm just using the Xyron little sticker maker. I'm going to stick it in here. It just loads in the back, and then you just pull and tear it off. Now, you'll get better use of your sticker maker if you will do several of them at one time and then load them through one at a time, or one right after the other, because you lose this amount in the beginning, and so it's just better if you do that. But anyway, we're doing this one. Then I go over it with a bone folder. Exactly, Rain. You need to appreciate yourself. Okay, go over it with the bone folder, and then the way these Xyron things work, the sticker makers like this one has a plastic on the top which pulls off all the excess adhesive, so this is very sticky. And then pick your little card that you're going to use. So we'll take this one. And it becomes a very sticky sticker. And then, whoops, hello. Kind of line it up. And, the best you can, line it up. Go over it with your bone folder. And then just keep adding. Now, this could be all kinds of things. This could be quotes. You could do the same thing. You could make a bigger, not worry about the background so much, and you could do bigger messages in here, and you could write quotes. Some other things I thought of, let's see, what? Things you're grateful for. So you could write down a list of all the things you're grateful for, or the things you're grateful for about a person, which is what this is. So the front of it will say, I'm grateful for, and then when you look inside, the first page is going to say, you. And then the next pages are going to say things like, your kindness, your laughter, your spirit, your smile. So it's going to be that kind of little book. Bye, Joanne. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so here is our little book, just to give you an idea. So imagine that it's on rings. All right, so the top will flip up. It'll have a title on the front, which I don't have done yet, and this page will be decorated. So this is probably where it will say, I'm grateful for ... Then Then we have you. Your smile. Your spirit. Your laughter. Your kindness, and so forth and so on. Okay? And so that is taking an old deck of cards, repurposing it into an art journal, a book, whatever you want it to be. So there you go. How'd you like that? My mom used to say, how'd you like them apples? Good to see you, Sarah. Thanks for joining us today. Great to have you here. So before I let the sponsors out, does anybody have any questions? You like that? I think it's a pretty fun project. It's good to sometimes it's good to revisit the things that you've done in the past and update them. I just think that's a good thing to do. You know what I mean? It's always good. And then it takes something that, there's nostalgia in this because there were cards that belonged to my parents. I remember playing card games with this particular deck of cards. So there is, sentiment attached to it. And then you end up with this really cool, fluffy little book art journal thing when you're all done. So it's pretty fun. All right. Yeah, encouraging is what it's all about in my book. That is my thing. One of the things we don't do enough, we don't tell people enough how much we appreciate each other. We assume that they know. We assume that people know what they mean to us, and that's not always the case. I'll tell you that. All right, let me get the sponsors. Here he comes. The first one out of the chute is always Mr. Chance. I don't think you can see him because the table's in the way. But he came shooting out of behind door number 1. All right, come here. You coming up? You gonna come say hello? All right, come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come here. Oh, you silly boy. You silly boy. About knocked myself over. Okay. I have less space than normal because I have this extra table in here. All right. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Sponsor time. Yep. Sponsor time. You going to talk to the people? Thanks, Deborah. Yep. They let me stream, so we have to give them some airtime. Let's see if I can get you a little closer. There. This is Chance. Charlie's in the doorway coughing, so we'll wait till he calms down. We'll wait till he calms down before he comes over here. So I don't know why he's coughing, but he is. If anybody has any questions, this is a good time to ask. And before we head out, Charlie's being busy over there. Oh, thanks, Mutha. Oh, I just again forgot how to say your name. Spell it to me one more time, would you? Muktha? Was that what it was? Ah, sorry. I needed to write it down. He is a big face. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. Can you hear him purring? Are you coming up? Mr. Sponsor? Coming up, Charlie? Are ya? Come on. Come on. Come here. Are you got yourself together now? Come on. Come here. Come here. Oh, come here. Oh, yes. Come up here so you can say hello. Yeah, come say hello. Oh, big old boy. Muktha. Okay, thanks. Whoops. He was a little too ready for his close-up there. Yeah, this Charlie. This is Charlie. He just spends a lot of time, he does spend a lot of time coughing, so it doesn't seem to be for any real apparent reason. He just does sometimes. Okay, so thank you all so much for joining me. And I will see you next Friday, same time, same place. You like the camera system? Thanks, Eileen. Yeah, now he's been asleep in the window for hours, so he's ready to sleep here for a while, apparently. You know he's happy when his tongue is hanging out. Yeah, show him how you look. No, you're not going to. Okay. So I'll see you next week, same time, same place. And until then, have a wonderful weekend and a great week. And I will see you guys next time. You're welcome. Thanks, everybody, for coming. It's been so good to see you and spend time with you. It's my favorite day of the week. See you next time. Don't forget to check the links below the video, because you'll see the links in the description for some of the products I used today in case you have more questions. All right. See you guys. Bye for now.